Alright, the countdown for game number 3 is on the way. 458 against Voss. Both members of Clan HS and both amazing fastest map players. Both part of the upper echelon. I'm not sure how you pronounce that word. I should know. There's a lot of things I should know but don't know. And this is definitely one of them. But the white Protoss, occupied by 458. Exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. He's on the bottom middle spot and he's up against Voss on the left middle spot. Voss is once again on the Terran, the blue Terran this time around. And it looks like they're playing a best of 3 now. Not sure what that meant. 3-2. Usually that implies best of 3. You win 2 of the 3. They've already played 2 matches, so 458 has technically already won. So maybe this is an extension of that set, where they've changed it into a best of 5. Maybe they're just playing a series of games. Nonetheless, it is a lot of fun to see these two players go at each other, specifically because both of these players have such great understanding of the matchup Protoss versus Terran, and I honestly don't think there is a player with a better understanding of this matchup from the Protoss point of view than our very own 458. 458 has some of the most amazing Protoss versus Terran games that I've ever seen in my life. The past couple of games between these two, the past 2 that have cast in this series, were not some of his best Protoss games. He has played way better Protoss games, as I've witnessed myself. But this could be one of those very amazing peak games where he just goes completely off the rails in a good way. Like the Crazy Train from the Black Sabbath song. He is going off the rails on a crazy train, and this could be one of those. You have to wait and see. His APM is already going up to his usual levels of 400 plus. Most of his amazing games have been on 400 plus APM. That's already a pretty good foreboding telltale of what is to come. But maybe Voss is going to throw him the counterpunch this game around and show him what's really up with his Terran. He's got a pretty good spot to do that. Although it's not a corner spot, but it's still a pretty relatively good spot where it's a pretty good spot to defend drops from. Although 458 does have a lot of angles to fly in from. Where on a corner spot you just have 2 sides from which you have to defend drops, and maybe the front side here, which can technically be a 3rd side. On this middle spot here, you have 1, 2, 3, and this kind of counts as a side too, so you have a total of 7 sides to defend, but everything has to come together on this middle spot, so you can put your raids here or units there and then fight off against it. But that aside though, a fight has started out. 458 is buying himself time to get his tech up and get that cannons on the front up, and Voss of course has been forced to defend himself against this harass, because it is possible to die against this harass from the 2 gateways, given the Protoss has some very good micro and the Terran messes up their micro. And 458 has gotten some pretty good surrounds off on those Marines there. Well, most of the Marines do end up surviving, but they have to retreat. But there's a single Marine in that bunker there. It's gonna get some fire up on the Marines entering. Well, the SCV went down. Now he's focusing on the SCVs themselves, slowed down Voss's economy and get himself a little bit of an economic lead over Voss. But Voss kills 2 Zealots, losing only a single SCV there from the pile. But these 2 Zealots are again hunting for the SCVs from the pile, but they see that they cannot get in and they are walking away. And while that is happening, 458 has thrown down his cybernetics core and is going to throw down 2 robotic facilities once that cybernetics core finishes. Alright, so now 2 command centers up for Voss. He's planning on getting a very big economy, because that is something you can afford to do while only being harassed by 2 gateways. So you can already see most of these zealots that 458 has or have gone down. And Voss has, while all that was happening, built up quite a nice size of marine mass. It's up to 12 Marines now, with 1 Marine still in the bunker, so 13 Marines are up for him, and there's a factory already coming down after just 2 barracks, and probably followed up by a starport, so he can more easily defend against those shuttles. So there is a robotic facility and a citadel of a dune, as mentioned earlier, thrown down by 458. And he threw them down a little bit later than you usually throw them down, so he can already throw down his 2nd robotic facility earlier than you usually do. Usually you throw down the 2nd robotic facility right about the time your 1st robotic facility finishes, so it times up nicely with the shuttle timing, so you can start 2 Reavers right about the same time as the second robotic facility finishes. And he's going for more harass, but there's just way too many Marines out there in the front for Voss now, for these Zealots to fight into. So it's better to save up those Zealots and perhaps prepare for a frontal Reaver attack on that bunker. But who knows? I'm not sure what he's going to do, because he's got plenty of options to go for. And it's all about whether whether Voss prepares for them correctly or not. He's adding on more barracks, so he's planning on defending himself, not with raids, although he's going to throw on the starport, I am sure. He's mostly planning on defending himself with Marine Stim upgrade. Or so I assume, otherwise he wouldn't be throwing down all these extra barracks. Their Stim upgrade has almost been finished. 458 now has thrown down his robotic support bay and his Templar's archive. Robotic support bay all the way in the corner there. That's something that's a little bit odd, but I assume there's an idea behind it. Now adding more gateways, so he's definitely planning on going for frontal attacks here, because he knows, or he saw at least, that Voss had not built a choke, which is more or less a telltale of what options you can go for as a Protoss. If you don't see that there's a choke in the front, you can go for a frontal ground attack, with Zealots that will have speed upgrade, and shuttles that will have Reavers. So 2 Reavers are being researched, being swarped in, but they are a little bit late. Usually you would have your Reavers up right about now, and you would have Zealots out, and Zealot lags finishing right about a 640 point, and then you would send them to the front. With which you would then, of course, attack the front with. From afar, from a safe distance. But Voss is preparing for the drops, which might not be too far-fetched of a plan, because 458 did go for 2 shuttles right at the same time. He's gonna load up a couple of Zealots, a Reaver as well. Was already throwing down a lot of cannons, because he knows that Voss is one of those pesky tank droppers that can really turn the game around with a tank drop. Still possible to drop a tank here and get a scan off and get vision off those probes and get a tank shot off from here. But there's 3 cannons down in that Pacific region already, and a 4th one there as well, so it might be a little bit difficult to pull off. Shuttle speed, a couple of seconds away from finishing. Corsair also finishing, helping to aid the next drop from flying in. Maybe he's going to use it on this one. Not too sure about that, just have to wait and see. He's more or less created a small wall in the front, although there is a little bit of a hole in it. He's going to have to plug up really soon. He doesn't have vision over the hill just yet, so it will come down to pure reaction time. Shuttle flies in, respond. He could have flown a little bit deeper, decides against it, and these Reavers get a beautiful shots off on the Marines. Marines going down. Now he has free access. No, he doesn't have free access on to the SCVs, and he fails to unload the shuttles because this shuttle gets stimmed. And he flew another drop in, and he gets a beautiful storm off. But almost all of the SCVs that Voss had were pulled off the minerals really quickly in response. Even quicker than I could notice a drop flying in. And that's one of the strengths that 458 has, is he will just fly another drop in while his first drop is already fighting inside the base. So you're already busy on focusing not on a minimap, but on a fight happening in your base. And that's one of his biggest Protoss versus Terran strengths, his ability to micromanage multiple drops and multitask it so well that as a Terran you're pretty much always with your back against the wall, because you are the subject of torment, more so to speak. Whereas the Protoss, in this case 458, is dealing out the torment. And he's honestly one of the best players in that regard when it comes to the drop game. So he loaded up another drop, filled up with Zealots and Templars. There's 3 Templars in there, and about 10 or so Zealots, and he's unloading them all simultaneously, reaching the mineral line, not getting a storm off on the SCVs themselves, because only 2 SCVs, but the SCVs already been replenished. He did kill a bunch of Marines down here, and probably down there as well, but he didn't deal the amount of damage he had wished for, other than forcing Voss to pull his SCVs off of his minerals, which does slow his income down. But the raids are now on the way, and raids are amazing at taking down shuttles. Does take a little bit of micromanagement to target fire and then keep flying and shooting at the same time in order to take them down efficiently. But if you can do that, it is an amazing little pickup, an advantage that you can build up, because you can buy yourself some time by continuously sniping those shuttles with the raids. Now drop is flying in over the north side of the middle. It's going to fly in over the spot north of Voss, but it gets spotted out by this engineering base. And here is what I was talking about. The raids come flying out for Voss, and he's going to micro them, chasing the shuttles. The Templars do get unloaded. The Templars get a couple of storms off on an SCV, but on nothing else. So that is a nice save for 458 for Voss, and Voss here snipes down a shuttle with his Marines. Very quick response because he had this engineering bay over the hill, providing him vision and adding on to his reaction time, making it easier to fight against those drops. Now this Corsair is going to take down that engineering bay or force it back over the hill. And here is an Expo already being built, so he's going for very, very early carriers. And I'll have to admit, I'm not a fan of 458's carrier play, but from time to time, he does have some amazing carrier moves. From time to time, it does work out really, really well. Drop number 6 or 7 flying out over a weak side of Voss's base, but they're gonna fly right into those raids, and those raids might be able to target fire the shuttles. The shuttles taking a lot of damage. The Templar gets in range of the mineral line, but it only kills the unhotkeyed SCVs, which was about 8 SCVs that went down to the storm. So Voss once again saves himself, manages to dodge. Well, he did lose a lot of Marines there and a turret. That's something that he is prepared to lose and can afford to lose. Engineering bay was landed to avoid dying to the Corsair, but a Zealot that was also there almost took down the Engineering bay. Engineering bay is going to die to burn damage. And luckily he has plenty of engineering base, so he can keep constructing turrets all around the side of his base. But it's all coming down to 458 just buying himself time for these carriers, which Voss has not scanned, but which Voss can fight against because he has raids. Now drop is flying in. Voss does not have his raids in position to intercept them. This unit is getting dropped on top of tanks, on top of everything. Templars once again drop next to the mineral line, but the SCVs have been pulled off for Voss. Voss now in 80 SCVs, lost a couple of SCVs. They were mining gas, but he's got a couple of idle SCVs right next to his mine minerals, so he can put them back on the minerals really quickly and recover from that little hit. Another drop is already flying out. This is what I mean, a constant barrage of drops non-stop, loading up while the other one is about to fly in. This time he flies right into the path of the raids. Raids will be able to target fire on the shuttles. The Templar does come out. Storm gets dodged, but he does lose 12 SCVs. But that's, like, once again, something he can afford to lose, given he's already pretty far into the game and on 73 SCVs, and his base is already pretty big. But these Zealots here taking down this turret line on the bottom side, which will make life a little bit easier for 458 to fly those drops in. That is if he decides to keep flying those drops in, because he does have a couple of shuttles on the way, but he's mostly planning on building a bigger carrier mass. The 6 carriers are on the way. Upgrades have almost finished. The upgrades have finished. So he's gonna have to load them up, and he is on 011 upgrades for his carriers, and armor for carriers or for air are not on the way. Whereas Voss already has some upgrades going for himself. 1-4 ground. Marines are 1, and his tanks are being upgraded. Valkyrie on the way, drop flies in. This time it reaches the mineral line. Voss does not dodge the storm. He dodges the storm, but this time he goes the other way around. He does end up losing 23 SCVs, mostly gas mining SCVs. It was a little bit of a slow reaction from Voss, but he manages to prevent most of the damage from hitting him. And his base is quite sizely. He's now on a nice number of starports and factories, so he will be able to fight off those carriers once they do come in. But it all comes down whether he has the upgrades to also fight against them. His upgrades are on the way though, so he's almost on 1-1-1-1-1-1-1-1-1-1. And this is what I mean. Beautiful response from Voss. Immediately takes down both the shuttles. It takes just one volley from this group of raids to take down a single shuttle. Maybe it'll even only take 10 of those shuttle raids to take down a shuttle. So he's now fully capable of defending himself. And I wonder whether... Alright, so 458 does have observers for the raids. There was a game a little while ago where he played against Toki, where he forgot his observers. And 458 managed to buy himself a lot of time. Alright, he found the carrier expo, but does lose a couple of raids at the expense of finding it. And carriers now inching closer to Voss. The bottom side of Voss's base, where Voss lost most of his turrets. His minerals are kind of slow at the moment. I'm not sure why, considering he has so many SCVs mining. And he tried to go in for the attack on the carriers. I missed it, and those Corsairs took down most of the raids he sent out. Whether Voss will be capable of defending against this is something I am honestly doubting. Annoying word. A combination of BT doesn't happen often in Dutch. Right, so he just decides to fly in all the way and is going to target fire on those command centers. He focuses the command center. Voss is not repairing it. And I couldn't even click on it, and it died. So Voss is finally hurting plenty. The storm comes down as well as his shuttle flew in under the cover of those carriers. VossHs taking down the second command center, now going for the third command center. This command center didn't completely die, it can still be repaired. Third command center does go down. Now the second who's already attacked also goes down. He's just taking down all these command centers, and Voss, having lost most of his raids, doesn't really have an answer for this. And Voss, while he was holding all those drops so well, did get slowed down just enough for VossHs to build up a nice carrier mass and just fly them in casually and start attacking the command centers. Voss's minerals are now being mined at such an extremely slow rate because he has to cover this huge distance. VossHs isn't really losing any of his carriers either. Even though he does not have upgrades that's superior over Voss. And Voss just happens to roll over really quickly against this very well-timed carrier attack. That Voss wasn't really prepared for it because he never saw the expo. And that is why it's really smart to proxy your Stargates and your fleet beacon. Because the Terran has access to infinite scans every 30 seconds or so, and you can just keep scanning your base and know what you're up to. And Voss probably thought that 458 wasn't up to carriers just yet, because his base, honestly, is being quite small, but it is capable of throwing out a lot of very good non-stop drops. And sometimes 458 tends to have a very small base, but this time is not one of those times. 458 built a beautiful carrier expo. Times it well, goes in for the attack. Voss being unprepared, having no answer to the carriers, loses his anti-air, and then loses his command centers and gets rolled over to die. That's game number 3, 3-0 for 458. Voss unable to pull off a single win in this series of what I assume is just a series of 2 friends playing against each other, trying their best to beat each other. Voss testing his Terran, testing the limits of his ability, and more or less getting shown that his limits are not quite enough to take down 458 this time around. Thanks for watching. Game number 4 is on the way. 5 games in total. Kind of already a spoiler that this is not a series that Voss is going to win, but maybe Voss can pull off a win against 458's Protoss. And if that happens, that would be very exciting to watch. Thanks for watching, and off we go!